Hi again then guys, and welcome to of course another tune for Forza Horizon 4 in particular, this time for a newer vehicle to the game, the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso. Technically the spiritual successor. You could say a facelift, but it's actually not. It's much more different than that to the Ferrari FF, which is of course my dream car. Funnily enough though, and ironically, I'm not a fan of the GTC4. I never have been. To me, the FF didn't need more power, it didn't need to be faster, and I'm not a fan of the look of this one, to be honest. It looks very generic to me, very blank almost. It doesn't really have the curves of the original. But as far as performance, it's certainly no slouch. Now, as far as the upgrade parts themselves, usually we would go for something like the Racing V12 conversion, because it typically gives you the best options as far as power, for instance. But in this occasion, the stock engine is actually better. You can get over 1300 horsepower out of it compared to just under 1200 for the race engine. So I would recommend leaving the standard engine in there. Now, as far as the rest of the upgrade parts, of course, I'd recommend keeping the all-wheel drive. Obviously, you want to drop the weight as much as you can. Racing tyres are technically already on there, so you just choose whether or not you want the lettering. And as far as the rest, just fit all of the racing parts that you can. Choose whatever rims you want, and as far as the front and rear wing, simply don't bother with those. You don't need them. They are good for handling, of course, but that's not the point of the tune. This tune is designed predominantly for speed, and then with good handling as well, but the handling is secondary. So in the case of a car like this, of course it's bigger, it's heavier, it's not necessarily as aerodynamic as something like a hypercar, so typically the FF and the GTC4, they do tend to be slightly slower for top-end speed. But as far as its all-round ability goes, that's not to say it's a bad car. I mean, as you can see from the benchmark, the top speed of 263 is not bad for a vehicle of its type for sure. As far as the acceleration, it's a little bit slower than you'd typically expect from a car with over 1300 horsepower, but that's partially due to the diff. And of course we'll get to the diff in just a second and you'll see what I mean about that. But for this one you do have 7 gears, and as you can see the ratios here working the way down. 1.95, 0.86, then 0.66. That's movable for the 7th gear. As far as the alignment goes, it is all-wheel drive, so we've got neutral camber, neutral toe, 4 degrees of caster as we would typically go for. Anti-roll are on 30 and 20. Then for the springs, 140, 170, lowest ride height front and back. Dampers we've got on 11, 13, 5 and 6. As I said, of course the aero doesn't apply. And what I was saying about the diff is that I've opted for 100% for everything, as far as acceleration and decel, but that's actually why it's a little bit slower for acceleration. The payoff, though, is that it has better handling, so I would definitely still recommend doing that. As far as the centre split, I've gone for 70%, which gives you very good launch. If you find it to be too heavy, you could take it to 75 or even 80, but of course, that's down to you. I like it on 70 because it's great off-road, gives you good launch, and the handling is still loose enough up to about, say, 240 miles per hour, which for most circumstances that's more than good enough. So of course you can get this tune on my storefront by using the keywords below or my gamer tag, but what you want to see now is how quick can it actually go. Well, as I said, the performance on the FF and the GTC4 is not quite as strong as some other supercars, but that's not too surprising. It's bigger, it's heavier, it's a 2+2 seater wagon. Of course, it's not going to dominate everything, but for acceleration they're good. For, I would say, lower end and mid-range handling, they're very good as well, especially off-road compared to a lot of others. Top end, they get a little bit heavier, and what I was saying about 7th gear is that you can definitely get up to 263, you can even see it in the race here, but above 240 the acceleration gets notably slower. So really, you could shorten 7th gear a little bit if you want to, but you will potentially sacrifice a couple of miles per hour top speed. But you can definitely get there, as you can see. As I said, you can get the tune on my storefront, or you can copy this vid. Of course, there are hundreds of tunes on my storefront, and also dozens and dozens of them here on YouTube as well. So just click through here at the end of the video to see those. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.